And hello, South Florida. Welcome to the TGIF edition of the Real Estate Show. That's 3 TGIFs for you. Thank God it's Friday. Thank God it's Florida. And thank God it's finished. Well, almost anyway. We got a great show for you today. Don't forget, this was a $30,000 minimum week for those of you who took the advice of what we were talking about here on the Real Estate Show. The Real Estate Show is America's longest running daily radio show, all about the topic of real estate. And if you are on the fence still after this week, I got to tell you, $30,000 has to mean something to you, and I'll get back to that in just a second. But every week, we go through the Real Estate Show, a sort of a sequence, right? We're live here 5 days a week. So each day of the week, Monday through Friday is a brand new live show. Monday, we start out that show simply by talking about what the concept is of the week and why it's so important, and if only I had started the week off by saying that if you listen and implement what I am talking about, this week's show could be easily worth the $30,000 that I'm talking about. I'm talking about that on a very modest $200,000 house, and that's the I would say the low side, because that's not taking into consideration all of our 5 points that I always make. On the Real Estate Show, we have what we call the automatic landlord process, and the automatic landlord process has a 5-star advantage, and those start out with being when it comes to buying property as an investment, you get real estate income. Okay, I call it royalty income. In fact, that's exactly what it's called on your tax returns. It's on Schedule E, the rents, royalties, and I forget what the third one was, but it falls under, these are recurring revenues that happen year after year. I was listening today to a podcast from a young lady who now declared herself financially free from real estate, that 5 years ago she was making $37,000 a year, and that was total. Today she makes a healthy 6-figure income, and there's no end in sight for it, because now she is her own boss. She has recurring rental income, quite a number of properties that she's acquired over the last 5 years, different styles, some apartment buildings, some houses, some vacation rentals, and that's what's possible in a short 5 years. Can you imagine? Is where you are, what you're doing? Can you retire in 5 years if you really applied yourself? And the really applied yourself is a really interesting point, because I know a lot of people who take real estate courses on the weekend. So they sacrifice their weekends. They pay, sometimes big dollars, 10, 15. I've seen, 25, 50 and 1,000 and more spent on some of these courses. And then they think that because they bought the course, that with maybe an hour a week, they're going to generate a 6-figure income, where during the rest of the week, they're going to work, 8-10 hours a day with zero possibility of retiring in 5 years. And I asked them, how do you reconcile that expectation that you're willing to put in 40 hours a week at the JOB, right? And you know what they say about the JOB, right? The JOB stands for just over broke. And you're going to give maybe an hour a week. I don't know who I fault more, whether it is the gurus that promise, just buy my course, and with less than an hour a day, you could be financially free. Maybe once you get it going. And that goes to one of my conversations about, rolling a boulder or pushing your car in neutral, right? I don't know if you've ever had to move or push your car because the engine wasn't working. And it's pretty surprising when you think about it, that a person, 150 pounds can move a 2,000 pound automobile. It's on wheels, weighs 2,000 pounds, and it's static. It's stopped. But you put it in neutral, and you get behind the car, And at first, what you're going to do is you're going to lean your back all the way into it. You're going to push your feet at like your legs at a 45-degree angle. And you're going to push as hard as you can. And you're going to, and you'll move it, right? Even, a person lighter than what I just mentioned could move a car. And as you start to put all that energy, all of your energy into it, you're going to move the car, right? And if you keep doing that, then you keep pushing hard like that, the car will actually pick up speed. So here is a 100-pound, quote unquote, weakling pushing a 2,000 plus pound vehicle down the road. And after a while, actually, it gets easier. Now you can, instead of leaning your back into the car, you can now turn around and start pushing forward and get it to pick up a little bit more speed and a little bit more speed. And what's even better is that if you keep pushing it, not too hard, you can maintain this 2,000 plus pound vehicle moving forward, right? And you can keep doing it. Now, if you stop pushing, it will come to a halt again. And guess what? Now you got to start that whole process of leaning into the car and everything. And I say, now take that in that comparison, that metaphor, and put it into starting a new business. You got to really lean into it. At first, you got to put more than your normal energy. You got to just really, everything you've got, you got to put into it. And if you do that, it will move and it will go forward, assuming, of course, that you do the right things, right? If you push on the car sideways, no matter how hard you push, it's not going to work. You got to push in the direction, parallel to the wheels, not perpendicular to the wheels. And in a business, why would anyone think that it's any different? That first you got to put more effort than you get paid for. And that's the beautiful thing about real estate, because you will put more effort than you get paid for in the beginning. And I'll say that that's true for being a real estate agent, being a real estate investor, either one, it doesn't matter. But once you get your real estate business going, then it's really, it's not a lot of effort to keep it going, but you still got to put some effort in it. And that's when maybe you get to put in, a 4-hour work week and get this residual passive income forever based on that extra effort that you put in the beginning. Anyway, just a little philosophical conversation. And so this week's conversation was all about house hacking. And so Mondays, what we always do is we kind of define what house hacking means, the very interesting sort of metamorphosis of the words hacking, used to be a bad thing. Now it's a good thing. It's really, figuring out the levers, if you will, how to be able to buy a house. And if you've seen over the last, I would say 60 to 90 days, I've really put a big effort into telling people why they should buy real estate and why, right now. And I'll tell you, sometime in the next, I'm going to guess within the next 90 days, there's going to be some very interesting real estate opportunities, because we all know that the real estate moratorium has ended, right? At least on a federal basis. Now, a number of states, several months ago, we covered when the moratorium ended. And it's been over a month, by the way, since the moratorium ended. And when it ended, we outlined that there were some states that took the moratorium upon themselves: California, New York, New Jersey, and a number of other states that have extended on a state level the moratorium. And so lenders are there, with their wrists tied. There's nothing that they can do with it. And sort of as a result, you haven't seen a lot of, there have been, and there are going on right now, the private lenders, they're not bound by any of these rules, so they're not waiting any longer. Many landlords, if they're not in one of those states that are affected, they're proceeding forward with their evictions of the people. So, a lot less, this is what they call the soft landing. But there is going to come a time when the rest of the moratoriums will lift and the economy is strong. The real estate market is strong. There's a lot of incentive right now to let the economy sort of get back on its own 2 feet, not propped up by these artificial supports and moratoriums and eviction blockages and so forth. And so much so, and that's why, thankfully, the uh, the the government right now is really at odds with itself on how much stimulus still to put into the economy. Granted, there are good parts of those programs, but there's a lot of excessive parts of these programs, and luckily there are some cooler heads, because we can put lots of stimulus into the economy, but at some point in time, we're going to have to turn around and pay for it. And we don't want to kick the can down the road and put that burden on the next generation, our kids or our grandkids. So the idea of house hacking and owning a property, and I'm telling you that the window of opportunity is already opening. And there's going to be a point there where the window is going to open a little wider. Remember, I said there will be a surge or a spike in the foreclosures, but I don't know how long that will last, given the pent up demand, the shortage of inventory that we have already. So even the foreclosures that are happening, you don't hear a lot about them because they're getting absorbed so fast that we're still behind the eight ball when it comes to inventory. So these things that we've been talking about, this house hacking, my recommendation, I feel very strongly that we're in an acquisition mode. We want you to be in an acquisition mode also, so that you benefit, because the object of the game here in real estate, while you can make a lot of money buying and quickly selling real estate, you can make even more money owning real estate for the long run, because you get both the appreciation and as I was just talking about the 5 points, you get the income, you get the tax benefits or tax sheltered income when you put those two benefits together, and actually 1 + 1 is 3. Then you talk about the equity buildup, so much so that we spent a whole week last week talking about just the concept of equity, building, creating, fabricating, and multiplying the equity. And then on top of that, there and separate and distinct is the appreciation, separate from the equity building. There are two separate mechanisms. And then finally, we talk about the leverage, and we're going to be talking more about the leverage in the coming weeks. But all that put together is how we designed what we call our VIP program. And this is something that you've seen me interlace throughout the whole week in the concept of house hacking. Use the VIP program, because no matter where you are, there are multiple levels. Let's just call it sort of a stair step approach. And you can get in on the level that you're at. If you have no credit, no income, no money, there's a level for you. If you've got good credit but no money, there's a level that you can come right in and you can have your own house. And this is where we're talking about the house hacking. And so throughout the week, once we discovered or discussed the definition of it on Monday, we talked about how this can dramatically affect you in retirement, and how I would say how poorly most people are doing in terms of their savings for retirement. I even gave you a number of statistics. According to Fidelity, the investment house, the following is what the average American has saved for retirements. And we talked about 20 to 29-year-olds have saved up a measly $15,000. If you're listening to this radio show and you're between 20 and 29 years old, how are you doing compared to what the average American has saved? What about if you're 30 to 39? If you're in your 30s, the average American has saved about 51,000. How are you doing compared to the average? 40 to 49. Now, come on, that's in your peak earning years. And now the number jumps to $121,000 or $120,800 in your 50s. Okay, now you are staring down the barrel of retirement, and they have $203,000. And so much so is that, people are now starting to leave the workforce, whatever their situation is. Their 60 to 69-year-olds have 229,000. Now, I don't care where you are on that spectrum of age. $230,000 is not a good retirement nest egg. Even think about it. If you were to live its average age, into your 80s. So that's 20 more years into 200. It means that you can afford to use up $10,000 of per year. That's why that person there is, depending not only on that $230,000, but also on Social Security. And my friends, that's not what I consider to be golden years. And that's why you got to do that. And that's why we kind of talked about another reason, the dramatic difference between what a homeowner has versus what and by the way, so this is, liquid. This is not people's houses. If you're a renter, that's it. If you were a homeowner all this time, and let's just make believe, if you got to age 75 and had managed to pay off your mortgage, we're going to talk a lot about that next week. But because I'm going to show you now that we've talked to you and taught you exactly how to house hack this whole week. What if you had now a free and clear house? And you have that income, whole different story, right? Because if out of the $3,000 maximum, or I think it's actually $2,000 for a couple, might get to $3,000, $4,000 plus that 10. The average, they have an average of savings, so that's another $1,000 a month. Whoop-de-doo. So at a maximum of somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. That's your retirement, but not bad if you don't have to make a housing payment out of that. If you had to pay $1,500 or $2,000 for a housing payment out of your $3,000 to $5,000 that you have, you can see that things now are very, very tight, and you're going to have to readjust your standard of living so that you don't outlive that $230,000. It took a 40-year period to save up. Whereas with real estate investing and house hacking, like what we're talking about, it's a whole different story. So house hacking, and then Tuesday we talked about sort of the retirement, how this really applies to the practical world. Then we got into Wednesday, Thursday, which actually I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break, and then we'll get into the 10 different ways that we talked about, ways to house hack. And I thought they were very, very interesting things. And also when I come back, I'm going to talk about, we're looking for a social media intern. So stay tuned. I got a very interesting proposition out there for you. You're listening to The Real Estate Show. My name is Eric Willner. Don't touch that dial. I will be right back. Raul, how are you? Lloyd, Ralph, and Christine. How are you? Erica, Greg, Paulini. Got like a very international sounding crowd today. William, we got the Spanish, the Italian, the English. I'm going with Graves. That sounds like an English last name. Anyway, pretty cool week, don't you think? The topic. Interesting. So I heard a really cool saying today. Says you can do this one day, or today could be day one. I want to share that also with our listeners. Hey, Greg, how are you? And the bottom line is, you decide. You get all this great information, and that's the one thing that I can bring the horse to water. I can bring all the information to everybody. But it's you guys helping out, giving us the thumbs up there on the Facebook page. Please do let more people know. Share this out there. I'm going to go back. And welcome back. For those of you who might just be joining us here on The Real Estate Show, maybe you were channel surfing across the airwaves and you came across this interesting conversation about real estate, retirement, house hacking, and the $30,000 difference. I mentioned about this, the difference. In fact, I think I mentioned it 2 weeks in a row, and it was an interesting statistic, because Two big statistics came out last week that I thought were so relevant to what we talk about. Number one, we've been talking about inflation and what's going on with all the stimulus and the fact that, first the government said, no, what inflation? We're in a pandemic, and then they go, oh yeah, there is this inflation here going on, but it's temporary. It's just part of reigniting the economy from the pandemic. And then last week they came out and says, yep, apparently there is inflation. Look at the gas pump. In fact, yeah, just in the last week, I think gas has gone up like 30 cents. That's like 10% increase in gas prices. The gas prices, which started off this year, with a 2 in the front of it, now has a 3 in front of it. Now we're in the mid 3s here in Florida. And I can only imagine what it's like in places like New York and California, where it's probably back in the $4 range or something. But the the statistic was that inflation is now at 8%. 8% inflation for the last 12 months. And so it's serious. And they still say, don't worry, it's going to back down. We're not in a hyperinflation, but think about it. Taxes are going to go up, interest rates are going to go up as the inflation goes up. And with all this extra money, trillions of dollars, which, by the way, is sort of borrowed from the future, is being pumped into the market now. So, but interestingly, at the same time, there was also a statistic released showing that real estate appreciated 15%. We all know the market is hot everywhere. 15%, it was the appreciation for the last 12 months. So it tells you one thing right up front, which is something that I say all the time. Real estate is an excellent hedge or protection against inflation. Those people who own real estate will benefit, in fact, or at minimum be protected from inflation, but they're going to benefit because prices are going to go up with inflation. Real estate definitely will. And as do hard assets. So things like gold, silver, and real estate are always the beneficiaries and hedges against the inflation. But now, something that no one is really saying, think about this. If real estate went up 15%, inflation went up 8%, the real rise in real estate wasn't really the 15% that you hear about the statistics. You subtract out the loss of purchasing power, i.e. inflation, real estate really went up 7%, which, by the way, is much more moderate and not a crazy runaway appreciation that you might think hearing the 15%. Nevertheless, one way or either way that you look at it, real estate is a good place to be looking at. So we got back sort of the recap. We were talking about the 10 ways to house hack. And house hack can also mean a couple of things just within the world of people understand the concept of hacking. But one way people think of house hacking is to live for free. And so we talked about a couple of different ways that you can use your personal residence once you get it. Okay, so the first part of house hacking is getting into it. And we talked about here, text the letter VIP. Get the report that we were offering all week long. If you didn't get it, text VIP to our text line, 561-861-2366. When I wrap up this week and I have all my notes, I've got a couple articles and the VIP report, the brochure on how the VIP works and how you can own a home regardless of credit, regardless of income, and regardless of down payment. Because I know where to get all of that stuff, and especially now with the incentive programs, and they're not forever. So time is of the essence. The clock is ticking. The window is open, as I said, but it's not going to stay open forever. So while supplies last, as they say, when it comes to down payment assistance and down payment money and grant money, that is while supplies last. So text the letters VIP to 561-861-2366. In fact, if I were you, I would lock that phone number. Just save it in your phone under the real estate show, 561-861-2366, because you're going to hear, and in the article, I'm going to talk about all the different 10 ways. We talked about multifamily hacking options. That's right. How do you buy a multi-unit place, get it to count as a personal residence with the best rates and the lowest down payments, and earn an income while you live for free? So that was, I think, a really interesting part. Doing that either with long-term renters or with short-term renters, through housemates, um, rent rooms on Airbnb, a whole bunch of different ways. So that's a wrap up of our week this week. Remember, the whole week is going to be replayed Sunday night at 9 p.m. right here where you are. So join us at 9 p.m. on Sunday, or right back here Monday through Friday, starting Monday here at our live 5 p.m. show 5 days a week. So that's it. TGIF to all of you out there. This is Eric Willner signing off. Drive safe, keep washing those hands, and make it a great day. Bye-bye. Man, that went fast. That went fast. All right, see you Monday. Thank you. Remember,